I'm sitting inside my personal 6.9 Mercedes. It's a 1978 Euro model that I recently acquired, and I'm just now starting to have some problems with the ignition lock assembly. So I thought it'd be a good time to share with you some troubleshooting tips. Ignition lock and tumbler assembly problems are becoming increasingly more common on these older Benzes, and it's due to the age of the key and the switch assembly itself. Take a close look at the key. You look here, you can see the wear marks in the grooves on both sides. Once this wear becomes extreme, it'll make it more difficult to turn the key in the ignition switch. In the case of my 6.9, I'm just beginning to notice a little sticking, or what I call notchiness, to the key movement itself. When I try to turn it on, it'll stick a little bit, and if I wiggle the key, I can get it to turn on. This is the first sign of impending problems ahead, and you must deal with it now or it can be very expensive later to repair. This is the ignition lock and switch assembly removed from the car. It's made up of three major components, and all of these three components can cause you problems. Here you're looking at the switch assembly. This controls power to all the electrical components in the car. Here is the steering lock pin assembly, which locks the steering wheel in position when you remove the key. And then finally you have the switch tumbler assembly, which is located inside this black cap. Here's a new OE lock assembly. If you look here, this is the cavity that holds the electrical switch in place. Flip it over, this cavity holds the tumbler switch assembly in place, and the locking shaft goes out to this pin right here, which locks and unlocks the steering wheel. The electrical switch assembly is available separately and unbolts from the steering lock. You can see it has multiple pins which plug into a receptacle for your wiring harness inside the car. You flip it over and you can see the connection point for the steering lock. It drops into place, and then there are three screws that hold it to the lock housing. And finally, here's a new Kia tumbler assembly. Note the two pins located on the back side. When these are inserted into the lock assembly, key movement will engage the lock and release the pin. The tumbler itself is permanently held in place by this black cap. My 300 TD here in the background is not showing any problems yet with the key, but when I look at it, it is showing some signs of some extreme wear. I want to come in here close and show you the difference between what an old key and a new key looks like. Let's talk a little bit about prevention. If you find your keys worn but your ignition switch is working properly, I would highly recommend you get a new key now. You can do this by taking it to a locksmith and having a new key made. Some of the high security keys, as well as keys that are severely worn, may require that you go to the Mercedes dealer, give them your VIN number, and they will cut the new key from that. Here's one of the main causes for premature tumbler wear. It's having a whole bunch of extra keys on your key. With all that weight jiggling as you drive down the road, it's only going to accelerate the wear inside the tumbler pins. So do your tumbler assembly a favor and get rid of the extra keys. Another thing you can do to prolong the life of your key and your tumbler assembly is to periodically lubricate it with lock lubies that you can purchase at any hardware store. I would recommend that you maybe do this 2 or 3 times a year. You know, it may sound like I'm harping on preventative maintenance all the time, but you have to understand that you have to fix this at the first signs that the key is sticking in the lock. If not, and you cannot turn your key, you cannot get this lock assembly out of the car, and if you can't turn the key, you can also not get the tumbler assembly cap off. Mercedes designed it so you have to be able to turn the key to remove this from the car. It's a safety feature. We carry all these parts available separately on our website, including a manual on how to remove this lock assembly from the car. You can install the switch assembly independently by using a special tool that we include when you purchase a new electrical switch. You can also purchase the ignition lock assembly separately if you feel your tumbler and electrical switch are okay. We also sell an installation kit for just the key and the tumbler assembly. This can be installed easily while the whole lock assembly is still in the car. With the kit, we can provide the special tool and complete instructions on how to do this job yourself. And then finally, if you're totally frustrated with your ignition lock assembly and it's not working at all, I recommend you buy a complete assembly that we assemble for you and ship out from our warehouse here in Bellingham, Washington. Be sure and check out all our parts related to steering lock tumbler assembly on my website.